Having looked at Islam in Malawi, it's high time now we look at Christianity in Malawi. So the topic is still missionary factor in Malawi. So having done with the Islamic part, how it came to Malawi, now we are going to look at Christianity. So it is history from 3, still a continuation. So let's be together in this wonderful topic as we learn about Christianity in Malawi. So let us continue with the early Christian missionaries in Malawi. So we are going to look at the early Christianity in Malawi. So we are done with the Islam. We have looked at a lot in Islam. We have looked at how Islam was introduced and the roles that were played by different people in Malawi in the introduction of Islam in Malawi. So this time around, we're going to center much on Christianity. So again, we'll look at who are the people who introduced Christianity in Malawi. And we're also going to look at the roles played by the various groups, as well as the challenges and the successes that they made. Just as we did with Islam, we looked at the last part was to look at the impact. What have been the impact of Islam in Malawi? So here again, I will also be looking at the impact, the end part to look at the impact of Christianity in Malawi. So the presence of Christian missions in Malawi is accredited much to the works of Dr. David Livingstone. So therefore, our starting point would be to look at Dr. David Livingstone. He was born on 19th March 1813 in Blantyre of Scotland, and he worked in a cotton factory and attended the evening classes. We call it the open school here. So he was an open school student, but later on he went to the medical school, the Glasgow Medical School, where he qualified as a medical doctor. So after qualifying as a medical doctor, he was influenced much by the humanitarian ideas, that is the ideas to assist people, the people who are in problems. So he was influenced by the abolitionist of slave trade, like T.F. Buxton. So this one, T.F. Buxton, he condemned slavery or slave trade. So he influenced him so much. So after his work, then he went after school, that is Livingstone. He wanted to go and work in China, but he met with Robert Moffat from Kuruman, that is in South Africa, who influenced him to come to Africa. So he changed his ideas of going to China, then he came to Africa to work as a medical missionary. So let's look at David Livingstone, a doctor, but now he's working as a missionary. So on 4th December 1840, he set off for Africa under the sponsorship of the London Missionary Society. So the London Missionary Society supported him to come to Africa to work as a medical missionary. So he joined Robert Moffat at Kuruman. Kuruman is in South Africa, which is today known as the Northern Cape, that is Kurumani, South Africa. So he went there in 1840 and he joined Robert Moffat. So Livingstone, he was with Edward. So they went to Bakatla tribe, where he organized the Mabotsa mission station. That is, he operated from Kurumani, then later he extended to Mabotsa. So, and also he also opened the Kolobeng mission station in 1847. So Kolobeng, this is in Botswana, among the Bakwena people. But that Kolobeng mission station did not go well because there was drought. It erupted in the same year 1847, and the blame was on Livingstone to say he brought the bad omens there. So the people, they blamed Livingstone for that. Then in 1852, the Boer farmers, the Boer are the Dutch. The Dutch, they attacked the Vakwena at Kolobeng. So the Kolobeng mission was attacked there at the Battle of Dimawe. Then Livingstone was forced to abandon that mission station at the Kolobeng. So after leaving Kolobeng, then Livingstone, he reached Lake Ngami, that is north of Kalahari Desert in Botswana. So he reached that lake in 1849. And he crossed the Chobe River and entered the Kololo country. So there he wanted very much to establish a mission station among the Kololo. So he wanted to do that one. So Kololo, it is to the southwest of Zambia. That's where you have Kololo. Unfortunately, he did not meet the king of the Kololo by the name Sebetwane. So in 1851, Livingstone went back to the Kololo country, and this time he managed to meet the king, that is the Sebetwane. So Livingstone, he planned to open a mission station just as he had that intention earlier on among the Kololo. So unfortunately, before he did that one, before he established the mission station, then his friend Sebetwane died of pneumonia before he could even think of establishing the mission station. So Livingstone, again, when he was there among the Kololo, he was horrified to see the slave caravans that were passing through, or that were there in the Kololo country. So this experience, therefore, it made Livingstone determined to end slave trade by replacing it with a legitimate trade. So when he saw the amount of slave trade that was taking place in the Kololo country, then he said, no, it cannot go on. There must be another good way of trading and not this slave trade. So let's look at his objectives. What were objectives of Livingstone as a missionary, or his missionary work? Number one, he wanted to spread Christianity. He wanted to spread Christianity. So that's why he opened mission stations at Mabotsa and Kolobeng. And also he wanted to end slave trade, just as he experienced among the Kololo there. Then he wanted to stop that trade and replace it with a legitimate trade. And he wanted to promote legitimate trade. So that was an objective on its own. And that one, it was evidenced by the coming of the African Lakes Company. It established the legitimate trade in Central Africa. And also another objective of Livingstone was to introduce Western education, that is Western civilization, Western way of living. He wanted to introduce it to Central Africa. And also the missionaries also loved the adventure. So also another part of adventure, exploring the interior of Africa, they wanted to do that. And also they wanted to check the spread of Islam in Central Africa that was brought by the Yao and the Arab traders. So they wanted to put an end to or to stop the spreading of Islam, because much as Islam was growing, it was also emphasizing or encouraging the slave trade. So they wanted to put a check to stop the growing influence of Islam. Now, what were the strategies? What were the strategies that David Livingstone used to open up Central Africa? We have seen that they had a number of objectives, but then what were the ways of meeting those objectives? So number one, through his writings. So he wrote books about Central Africa. So these books, they were widely circulated in Europe. So in the books about Africa that he wrote, he wanted to make Europeans aware of its geography. They wanted to he wanted to make the Europeans aware of how Africa is. And the writings also exposed the evils of slave trade still taking place in Central Africa. So we wanted to show the slave trade that was taking place in Africa. And the examples of such books are the Missionary, Travels, and the Researches in Southern Africa. And the other one is the narratives of the expedition of the Zambezi River and its tributaries. So these were the titles of the books that Livingstone wrote. So apart from writing, Livingstone, he aimed to open Africa through the public lectures. So he made public lectures and private lectures in Britain about Africa. So he was lecturing, he was teaching about Africa in Britain. So the UMCA, the University's Mission to Central Africa, it was the product of such lectures. And he also made special appeals. He made special appeals to the business communities in Britain to open up trade that would replace that slave trade. So the African Lakes Company, the coming of that African Lakes Company was a response to the appeals. And another way of or strategy was opening up mission stations. So he opened up mission station at Mabotsa as well as Kolobeng. We have looked at those. And also through his expeditions. So he wanted to open up Africa through his expeditions. So he made journeys of explorations in which he identified routes into the interior of Africa. So these are some of the things that Livingstone did or to open up Africa. So we have mentioned that Livingstone also, one of his strategies was to open up Africa through explorations or expeditions. So he believed, especially when he reached the Kololo country there, he saw the slave trade. He saw to it that the best way to replace this slave trade is to find routes, to open up routes that could connect interior of Africa so that traders should be coming from somewhere and come into the interior to trade on other items other than the slave trade. So he thought that exploration must come before establishment of mission station. Exploration of areas has to be number one before establishment of mission station. So that's why Livingstone now is being said that we are going to learn about him as an explorer. So in the interior of Africa, it was not yet known to the outside world by that time of Livingstone. So there were no lines of communication such as roads were not there, and rivers were also unnavigable due to the cataracts or waterfalls. So there were also thick forests that were there. So that's why Livingstone decided to embark on exploration of Central Africa in order to open up the region to Christianity and civilization. So that's why he did that. So let's look at his first journey as an explorer now, between 1852 to 1856. So Livingstone's objective of this journey were number one, to explore the river Zambezi and see if it is navigable, if the river Zambezi is passable from the ocean up to its source, and also to end slave trade. So those were the two major ends that Livingstone embarked on exploration between 1852 and 1856. So he set up from Cape Town to Linyati. Remember, Cape Town, Kurman, where it was like a base, finding Robert Moffat, then proceeding into the interior of Africa. So he set up from Cape Town to Linyati, where where Sekeretu, the new king of the Kololo, he welcomed him so much. So we see to it that he went back to the Kololo country, where he found the son of Sebetwani now is the king. So that king, the new king, welcomed him. So in November 1853, he left Rwanda in the hope of finding the trade route in the western side. So Sekeretu, the new king, he also gave him 27 porters. Porters are helpers. So those porters, they were to assist him as he wanted to find the route to the western side. But he met with a number of challenges during this journey. Number one was that there were heavy rains. There were heavy rains there, like in Zaire. You know, Zaire, it lies in the equatorial forest where there are heavy rains there. And also the dense forest. The dense forest, thicket, dense forest was there. And not only that, malaria attacks, they were also attacked by the malaria. And the dysentery was also, they were also attacked by the dysentery. And the hostile tribes like the Chikunda slave raiders. So those were some of the challenges that he met when he wanted to connect to Rwanda to find a route to the western side. So these challenges then, they removed Livingstone's ambitions of developing a large-scale trade route because there were a lot of problems there. So he thought to it, no, it is not possible to do that. So in 1855, he went back to the eastern coast of Africa where he reached Mosi Aotunya Falls, which means smoke that thunders. Smoke that thunders. And he renamed it Victoria Falls after the Queen of Britain. So in 1856, he left for England. So in England there, he wrote and published a book which was entitled Missionary Travels and Researches in South Africa. Remember, we said he wrote 2 books. So this was the first book that was published after he went back to England in 1856. So again, he also made public lecturers. Remember, we said that one of his strategies was to make the public lecturer so that Africa should be known outside. So when he went back to England in 1856, there, apart from publishing a book, he also was busy making the public lectures, instilling the experiences of Africa into the Europeans. And he also made famous statement during one of his public lectures. So he said, I go back to Africa to make path for commerce and Christianity. Do you carry out the work I have begun? I leave it with you. So that was a very great appeal. As a result of that appeal, it was the formation of the University's Mission to Central Africa, in the UMCA. The life of Livingstone continues as an explorer. So we have looked at the life of David Livingstone, how he came to Africa, his aims, and his expeditions now. His first expedition, we have looked at that one. What happened? So we are going to continue still with Livingstone, how he moved about in Africa. So the next time we meet, we are going to continue with the second, his expedition, his Zambezi expedition of 1858 to 1864. So it was his second journey. After he went back, he came back again to Africa, and that one now was called the Zambezi expedition. So let's be together in that next period. So until that time, thank you so much.
Simutaya nthawi yanu kufunafuna maphunziro muzakhala wotumidwa moyo wanu wonse. Ngati simuphunzira anthu azingokutumani, ajala kalime, ajala kuchwe manyazi, ajala katende yanti, ndipo anthu ophunzira wandu wotuma so kwambiri. Ndiye ngati simuphunzira, skulu akuyikirani aba mukhala otumidwa.